you believe is possible for you, dear warrior? Most of us have a small window of possibility for our lives. I hear things like, well, Susie, this is what my life looks like. Must be nice to live your life, but this is what's possible for me. This is what I've done before. This is what people around me have done before. And shoulder shrug, can't you see then? This is all that's possible for me, right? Beep. Oh, warriors, I'm here today to call BS on that thought drama. That negative thinking you're thinking, to interrupt it, to point out that everything that you see around you was once impossible to the human brain, to our cave women ancestors. Anything great that has happened in this world happened because someone expanded their lens of possibility. Someone chose to focus more on the future than on the past. Our ancestors thought electricity wasn't possible. They thought air travel wasn't possible. They thought building a skyscraper wasn't possible. Heck, a younger me heard of the World Wide Web and was like, what are you talking about? Come on. None of what we now see around us was possible until the human brain came in and decided to focus more on possibility and the future than on the past and failure. And that's where we are today, warriors, learning how to not give up, learning how to not judge and berate ourselves when we hit a roadblock in our success, adopting Edison's mindset when it comes to setback. He says, I did not fail. I just found 10,000 ways that don't work. Okay, if you're listening in live time, this might really resonate with you. We're at the point where New Year's resolutions and goals have pretty much expired. This is where we look at our actions from the past, month and tend to make these big judgments about ourselves, and then tend to have thoughts about our future possibility and what's not possible for us, frankly. Today, let's learn a different way. Let's learn how not to give up. I titled this episode, How to Not Give Up, or to learn to not give up, something about that. But another title could have been Failure Tolerance. I didn't think that would get as many listens, so that's why it came to my other title. But really, when we get better at how we think of failure and the judgments we make about ourselves, that's where our success lies. The better we can get with the quote unquote failure, the greater and better our lives will be. Isn't that amazing? The better we get at failing, the better we get. Okay. Quick review and recap. We have 65 to 80,000 thoughts a day. Okay. Those thoughts are thoughts about the past, the present, or the future. What I usually do, and what most of us do, is spend a lot of our time thinking thoughts from the past. We look at the past to predict what our life will be like in the future. This is normal. Our brain is predicated. It likes to predict, okay, to keep us alive. If you're a podcast listener, you know of how I speak. Our primitive brain is not wired for our overall happiness and success. Okay, it is wired to keep us alive. It has a motivational triad. Okay, grab the podcast roadmap if this is new to you, www.smbweld.com/roadmap. Okay, to live a life we love, to feel better in our days, it is necessary for us to override our primitive brain. Okay, to put in like a little jigger when it is like, oh, let's look at the past to see what's possible for you. It's like, no, stop. Okay, so grab the roadmap if you're unfamiliar with that, because it's a foundational piece of living a life well loved. And the roadmap gives you a step-by-step easy listening guide to get started and feeling better ASAP. If you've been here for a while, or you're just still listening, you'll grab that later. Today, we're learning how to use our brain to help us. Okay, so let's pause for a second and ask that lovely brain of ours. What do you spend more time thinking about? The past or the future? I'm training my brain to get really good at digging into the future and spending time there. And yet, unless you've been working with me or another coach for a while, you probably are past focused. That's really what a lot of our society is. You might say things like, well, this is what I always do, or I always do this. You might look at your past to determine what's possible for you in the future. And when we do this, we keep creating more of the same. So we're sort of creating this negative habit loop of like, oh yeah, if this, then that, that's what you do. And so we keep recreating the same version of ourselves. We keep creating the same life. We keep thinking these thoughts, keep thinking the same thoughts and getting the same results in our lives. Okay, no shame here, dear warrior. I do this too, as this is how the brain is wired. And the brain is the most powerful, magnificent computer on the world. It's just we also have the ability to think about what we think about. Yet when left unexamined, our primitive brain runs the show and it repeats old thoughts and old patterns. So today, join me in my efforts to stop this patterning so as to live a life we love, to choose to focus more on our future and what we want to believe is possible for our life, rather than focusing on our past as evidence for what is possible. I'm on this journey with you. I'm not some magical unicorn that's always choosing helpful and future-focused thoughts. Okay, rather, I am someone who is committed to her growth and living a life I love. And in that commitment, I meet with my coach weekly so that she can point out where I am engaging in this thought drama, where I am past focused, and where I am believing in limits for my life. Okay, baloney, let's go. This is what makes life exciting and being a human amazing. This is where the power lies, in two powerful places. One, deciding what we want to believe, and two, reframing how we view setbacks, or maybe what you call failures. First, the beliefs. You know what? We get to believe what we want to believe no matter what. No matter what evidence we have in the past that supports it, okay? And people might tell you you're delusional. Well, yeah, we all are. None of us know what the future is going to have. So if we're like, oh, that's delusional to think that, well, it's also delusional to worry your face off and believe in the worst possible outcome. So if we're going to be delusional either way, let's choose consciously what we want to believe no matter what. Okay. And I'm just here to say that there are things you believe no matter what. Think about it. Are there things they believe so much so that when you hit a roadblock or a setback, it doesn't challenge that belief? Okay. Like I've heard people say like they have the belief that their kids are good. And so even like when the neighbor comes up and is like holding, you know, their own child, it's like bloody nose. And they're like, your kid just punched my kid in the nose. You're like, oh, that's odd because my kid is inherently good. Okay. You have this belief. So like there are things that we believe that evidence can come up to support the other side of our belief, but we're pretty much blind to it. Okay. I gave you one example there. I'll give you two more examples of this for me in life, of beliefs that I have chosen to believe. Okay. And I believe firmly and I'm committed to the belief. First, I believe things work out for me and my family. Okay. Things work out for me and my kids. I have thought this thought so many times. I have it on sticky notes. I have it hardwired into my brain as a belief. I have committed to this thought. I've practiced it over and over. So now I absolutely believe it. Okay. What this means is when something comes up in my life that pushes against that belief, okay, maybe a son calls and he's struggling or he's had some setbacks or some, I don't even entertain this idea that the belief isn't right, that I'm like, oh my God, here's evidence that things don't work out for us. I view it curiously and almost like with a hint of confusion, like, oh, that's interesting. I wonder why that's happening to him. Or I wonder what he'll learn from that on his path to become this great man that I know he's going to become. Okay, that's like the example of circumstances in my life coming up against a belief I have, and it's just like my brain is like, nope, doesn't fit into my framework. Okay, another example is my marriage with Paul. I have shared before on this show how I consistently practice the thought that this is the thought I practice, that I'm in a deep and connected marriage that keeps getting better. I've practiced it so much that it is now hardwired as a belief. This is not at all a belief that I had with my first marriage, not at all a belief that was modeled for me. Okay. And yet now I believe so deeply that I am in a deep and connected marriage that keeps getting better, that when something comes up in our relationship, say Paul and I disagree, or I get reactive, my brain gets curious and pensive. It might think the thought, that's interesting. I wonder why I was so reactive. Or I'll think, oh yeah, these things happen in relationships. This feels difficult. I wonder what there is to learn here. And I move forward, firmly committed in my belief. Okay. Rather than thinking like, oh, well, that just shows marriage doesn't work or marriage is whatever. No, I believe in my belief. Okay. I've committed to it. So how might this work for you, dear warrior? Well, as I said, if you're listening to this live time, it's right about the time when New Year's goals and resolutions completely burn out. It's right about when we start thinking our automatic negative thoughts and we're like, see, I told you you couldn't do it. Or you should have listened to your friend or your husband or your sister and not tried that. Beep, not this year, warrior. Not with the knowledge of this episode. We get to decide what we believe in. Okay, you get to decide which thoughts you practice. You get to use your power as a human to decide what to believe in and to commit to practicing that thought over past thoughts. Okay, what do you want to believe in this year? What do you commit to? Here's some examples I've heard. For many women, they have one of two desires related to health or parenting. Like parenting, they might want to be a calmer and less reactive parent. For health, they might want to lose some weight, take better care of their bodies. Okay, say this is you. Say it's a second example. You want to lose some weight. What would you be thinking about today if you were so committed in your belief that you're on your weight loss journey, that you're in a healthy body? Okay, what would you be thinking about if you believed in that success, if you committed to and chose to believe that thought? This is something I love doing with my clients and in my group coaching program. I ask them to close their eyes and imagine us a year from now. Okay, when it all works out, I have a little fairy ball, a magic ball. And I'm like, hey, you met your goals. You've achieved your dreams. Close your eyes. Imagine us sitting together. You're 30 pounds lighter. Okay, what would you think about your past year and your attempts and setbacks? What would you think on that day when you overate? Okay, what would you think about during those 6 weeks when you didn't lose a pound, when the plan you were following didn't get results? Okay, I'll tell you what, you're sitting there in your healthier body and you're like, oh, isn't that interesting? What can I learn from that? All right, well, this isn't working. Let's keep trying something else. They would see those things as setbacks. They would see them as steps on the path to success. I love asking myself, if I knew it would all work out, what would I be doing? If you knew it would all work out, if you committed to the belief of your future and your future life, what would you be doing? What would you be thinking? And this brings us to piece number 2 of how to not give up. And it's all about reframing how we view setbacks. Okay, if we were sitting in that room and you're 30 pounds less, and I ask you about that day when you ate all the ice cream, okay, or what your thoughts were when you were, 6 weeks, the number on the scale didn't budge at all. Now that you know that it all worked out, that's how we like to reframe failure. Okay, I bet you'd be thinking some growth mindsets like, I wonder what I can learn from this. I wonder why I did that. Maybe my body doesn't like almonds. Maybe my body needs more protein for, who knows? But the curious zone over the judgmental, shameful zone, that's where growth occurs. Like, what if failure was no big deal? What if you were either winning or learning? I just need to say, failure is exactly what you think about it. Remember Edison's quote and realize you have the power to decide what failure means. If you choose to think that the things that are happening in your life are just little lessons that you're either succeeding or learning, then there is no failure. There is no massive judge in the sky that's like, you're so bad, Susie. Okay, or insert your name there. And if you're committed to believe in your future and your goal, anything that happens along the way is learning that moves us forward. So exciting. Attempts move us forward. We learn through our attempts. We learn by our actions. Our actions move us forward. Think of when you learn to walk. Okay, do you just stand up and start walking? No, it says no baby ever. Okay, you get up, you fall, you get up, you fall, you get up, you fall, you try, you fall, you try, you fall, you try, you fall, you try, you keep walking. Oh my goodness, your actions move us forward. We learn through that. We learn in the unbalanced. Whether we get the result we want or not, we keep moving forward and we commit to our belief that we're moving forward. We're on our path to figure this out. So exciting. So as we finish up here, warriors, I want to remind you of these two main things. Choose what you want to believe about your future. No matter what has happened these last 30 days, these 30 weeks, or 30 years. What do you want to believe is possible for you? One of our biggest handcuffs is fear-based negative thinking. When we look at the past as evidence of what is possible for us, we are defeated and we're confused. The past doesn't show us what's possible for us. The past only shows us what we were thinking in the past. Because what we were thinking creates how we were feeling and drives our actions and gets us the results we got. So the past shows us what we were thinking to get the results we got. It doesn't show us the future. It doesn't show us future possible thoughts. It shows us our limited or faulty thinking. And we can shift that. Allowing our brain to look at the results we have in our life as evidence of what's possible for us is unfair to us. We get to look at the results we have in our life as evidence to the thinking we're doing. Anything's possible for us if we believe it. If you believe you can stop yelling, you can. If you believe you can lose the weight, you will. If you believe you can stop worrying, you'll do it. If you believe you can enjoy parenting teens and it can be fun, you can. The opposite is also and absolutely true also. So that's the first part. Pay attention to what you're believing in and commit to a higher level thinking if you want a higher level living. And two, choose how you want to view failure and setbacks. Do you want to make them mean something about you and your value as a person? Big judgment stamp on your forehead. Or are you open to viewing them as evidence of your courage, my dear warrior? Your courage to take steps forward and actions towards living that life you love. I think you know which I vote for you, which path. I love you. I support you. And I believe in you. Martin Luther King Jr. said something like this, but something along the lines of, you don't need to see the whole staircase. You just need to take the first step. I didn't know how I was going to create a marriage better than anything I had in my past or anything I could see around me. But I took the first step and I went there. So what is it for you? Maybe you can't see how you're going to lose the weight or how you're going to stop yelling or how you're going to feel more understood in your relationship. That's normal. You haven't done it before, so you don't have past thoughts to generate a future result. Does that mean we stop? Not us, warriors. Not us. Yay. If you don't have a life coach yet, please consider joining my program. It's one of my favorite places on earth where we women are constantly creating new and exciting futures. Or if you want to walk through one of these exercises or get one-on-one action to fast track you to that future of your dreams, see if I have room on my schedule. If you're interested in taking the first step towards parenting differently, take the next right step and sign up for my easy parenting program. I help moms and dads feel better about their parenting and have more fun with their kids. Do you have this belief that's not possible for you? Okay, that's your next right step. If you haven't taken my parenting program yet and you're a parent, what could you possibly be waiting for? And hey, dear warrior, if you love this episode, could you please share it with one other person? The more of us out there creating futures and redefining ourselves and our thoughts in the future, the greater this world becomes. One warrior at a time. Big love to you. You matter to me.